Hi, you guys. Welcome to Module 12. As you probably guessed, with last week's reading quiz being reading quiz number 10, we are officially done with the textbook for the semester. So that's exciting. That being said, there are still activity boards or activity reports, discussion boards, etc. So you do still have to sort of show up. But the reading part is done, so that probably will cut down on some of your time spent on this course. So in Module 12, what I sort of like to do is talk about some things that aren't covered in your textbook, one of which is super interesting, and it sort of overlaps with computer-mediated communication, which is a relatively new field. It's one that I was doing research in. It's one that some universities across the nation are starting to offer classes specifically in this, and so it's really interesting. But your discussion board this week deals with a topic called mate poaching. And mate poaching is the idea that I'm interested in somebody and I know that they have a significant other, but I pursue them anyway. Right? Like I try to take them away from whoever it is that they're with. And this tends to be, unfortunately, a fairly common endeavor. It's becoming more and more common with the advent of social networking sites. So the crossover between computer-mediated communication and the nonverbal element of mate poaching is sort of that we now have access to all these other people. So you're not just in a relationship with your significant other, you're in a relationship with your significant other and their 3,000 Instagram followers, right? You don't necessarily know who they are. They're not part of your friend group. You don't have access to them the same way that you would maybe your significant other's like close inner circle of friends. And obviously this has ramifications. People tend to be a little bit more bold when they are under the sort of pseudo-anonymity of the internet. They will say things and do things that are much more forward than they would do in a face-to-face setting. So I have a good buddy from grad school. His name is Dr. Benjamin Wiedmeyer. And Ben works at Northwestern University now, and he studies mate poaching. That was an area of emphasis. And Ben went to Michigan for undergrad, and then he went to San Diego State for grad school, and then Arizona State for his PhD. And all that means is that those are very big, like highly regarded quantitative schools. And so the quantitative aspect of his research is interesting in that he sort of comes up with algorithms or ways to identify patterns in mate poaching. And so we've written together and worked together on this because of the crossover in terms of the social network surveillance and how that sort of impacts your dating life. And that's kind of my side of it. And then his side of it is what that looks like when someone then enters the relationship and tries to sort of take over. So scientifically speaking, the worst thing you can do to a relationship is add a third person. Right? So this is not contested in relationship research. That's why a lot of couples struggle when they have kids, because a kid is a third party. So having a child changes the dynamic of a relationship because all of a sudden your partner probably isn't your first priority anymore, and that can clearly cause some problems. This same theory is why most relationship experts will strongly caution against having like a sexual three-way or being involved in a polyamorous relationship where you're dating or you're in a partnership with more than one person at a time. Even if everybody knows that they're all dating each other, it just doesn't work out in terms of the relationship dynamic. Dyads are kind of the gold standard of relationships for a reason. So what your discussion board is going to talk about is what does this look like to you? So your response to this, like, has this ever happened? What would you do if it happened to you and someone was trying to sort of impose on your relationship with someone else? What would you do if someone was trying to poach you from your partner? How would you react? So what if you were the poacher? What do you think then? Some of those things. So I want you to think about kind of all angles of this topic and how you fall on that. So your activity report this week is another TED Talk, and your TED Talk this week is about specifically lie spotting. So we've talked a little bit about understanding sort of lying behaviors and patterns before, but Pamela Meyer does a really good job. She's actually a deception expert, so this is her jam. This is what she does. And she identifies 2 patterns as ways that you can identify a liar, and she'll explain both of those in depth. And then for your activity report, you will need to talk to me about which way you think pattern 1 or pattern 2 is the most effective way to spot a liar. And also, she talks a little bit about this kind of phenomena that we all lie. Like, we just do. Even if we're really, really good people, we will tell white lies from time to time. So I want you to think a little bit about why, if we are, aware that everybody lies at least sometimes, why do we get so obsessed with it? Like, why are we so fascinated with being able to tell if someone is lying to us? And why do we want to know how to do that? And why is it so upsetting when we know that someone's lying to us? So I don't want common things like, well, I want to be able to trust my friendships and my relationships. Like, that's too basic. Give me more. Like, what is it about human nature that makes lying so fascinating? So you're going to think about that a little bit in the Pamela Meyer TED Talk. If you have questions as you go along, please let me know. Also, you should definitely still be working on those research projects. And again, since we're done now with the textbook portion of the course, that should free up some time for you to do that. I can't reiterate enough how important it is that you not leave these until the last minute, because the work really does suffer. And I have high hopes for these papers. I hope you do as well. And I am happy to help wherever I can. So let me know if you have questions or concerns, and I will be in touch. Thanks so much.